emotional nonsense that's talking about across the street. Look, when you give the ability for somebody to break into our home, which is what they're doing, 10 million people have broken into our home. America's our home, right? America's our home. They let 10 million people break in. How many people would you let break into your home? Not one, because that's obvious. And not only have they allowed that to happen, they take better care of the intruders than American citizens. You serve in this country, right? You serve for this country? How many of you serve for this nation? Raise your hand. Let's give them all a huge round of applause. You served our country. When you go to the doctor, do you have a copay? Do you have a deductible? Do you have to make an appointment? Yes? Not if you're an illegal. If you're an illegal alien in this country, no appointment, go right in the emergency room. No copay, no deductible. You get free health care, totally no charge. Free education, free food, free housing. This is for people who broke into our country. We have 35,000 homeless veterans in America today. 35,000 people, like these two gentlemen and others, that serve this nation. For 1/100th of what we spent last year taking care of illegals, we could have built every one of them a home. These are the things you won't read about in the media. Because of course, if the media reported it fairly, Americans would be outraged. Instead, they say, well, you know, they're anti-immigrant. You know, the newspapers call me anti-immigrant, but I hate South Americans. Now, there are a couple cousins, you know, in the bubble. But generally speaking, of course not. You know, I was born in South America. I came here legally. And I'm sick and tired of watching this country reward people who broke our laws. What does Kamala Harris want? She wants to make them citizens.
Sorry, excuse me.
Tell me what you think of Bernie Moreno. I think he's a very positive candidate for Ohio. He is a good, true conservative, which is what we need. We don't need liberals who try to turn conservative every election. So I'm 100% in for Bernie. Okay?
Make sure they go shower too. Back out. They're only senior and intermediate stuff. I would be surprised.
Here's what's interesting. Kamala Harris is the first nominee of any party in American history that did not actually earn that nomination. And the VP will be picked by that same person. Kind of wild. I mean, it's pretty surreal. 3 weeks ago, President Trump was shot. 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden was basically bribed to get out of the race. And now they've recreated this Kamala Harris, a person that is unrecognizable, the actual person. What do you mean bribe? Oh, he got checked. There's no question about it. It was more than 10% for the big guy for him to drop out of the race. Remember, he said, the Lord Almighty alone is the only person that could get him to step out of the race. That was Friday. Sunday, he dropped out of the race. It'll be interesting to me to see how much that check was worth. It's going to be a big one.
I'm working on this story about the lawsuit for Michael Falcone. I know I got a comment today on that, but do you have any thoughts there on that?
Yeah, you know, listen, I'll compare my record against any of the businesses. Sherrod Brown, look at his record. You don't really scrutinize his background. You know, there was a staffer who literally got murdered who worked for him, and that was never properly investigated. You'll never hear that in the news. You'll never hear any of the allegations about his personal life in the news. I think I'd ask you guys, do you have some level of fairness here? You know, Mike Falcone's a good guy, but you know, like in any business, somebody doesn't perform, they typically don't blame themselves, they blame others. This was a disgruntled employee that filed the suit, and like all businesses, we eventually settle these things because it's cheaper than litigation. That's common practice. Look at the thousands and thousands of people that work for me. Ask them, interview them that work for me, that will tell you the same thing. I took exceptional care of my people. Why? Because it was good business. Because my job was to recruit, train, motivate, reward, and retain great people, and that's what I focus on. The Cleveland Plain Dealer, years in a row, gave me best places to work. How did that happen? And how do you square that with how you guys are trying to now paint me as somebody who is a terrible boss? Your own paper said I was one of the best places to work in Northeast Ohio. Probably want to delete that from your website as much as you can. And that's the reality, right? So you can't square that, right? You don't ever mention that in your article. Hey, by the way, this is interesting. You had these lawsuits, but the Cleveland Plain Dealer went through this process and determined that of all the workplaces in Northeast Ohio, and one of the rare car dealerships, because car dealerships typically have a lot of turnover, that got best places to work. I won't think I'll pass out if I ever read that in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And let alone in the Ohio Capital News. I think there I'd have to pretend I was another reality.